Hello, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I said in a previous video that I was going to be talking about pastoral transitions, healthy versus unhealthy experiences that I experienced at my church from what I call was an unhealthy pastoral transition. And so this is the start of me talking about that. So I first just want to lay out some basic things of what a healthy versus an unhealthy pastoral transition actually look like. And then we'll kind of just go from there. The Bible frames healthy pastoral transitions as humble, God-directed handoffs focused on the flock's well-being. Hard stop. The flock's well-being. In contrast, unhealthy transitions are typically driven by selfish ambition, control, or division. Okay? Healthy transitions are characterized by a smooth transfer of leadership, mentorship, and a focus on God's vision rather than human control. Leaders should purposely train their successors, mirroring the relationship between older and younger leaders. 2 Timothy 2:2 says, "And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others." Humility and servant leadership. Healthy pastors do not view the church as their personal property, but as a flock that belongs to God. They step down or transition without lording their authority over the congregation. 1 Peter 5:2-3 says, "Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. Watch over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, and not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock." A healthy pastoral transition also looks like focusing on God's direction, not like your own personal one. I have seen pastors that believe that they are on the track of what God is telling them to do or their calling, but actually missing the mark in a lot of ways because it doesn't feel good, because they're hurt. If they hurt their flock in the process of trying to grow, but you're not treating your own home church people right, that's not God's direction. Yeah, just gonna put that out there. That is not, I'm pretty sure that Jesus doesn't want you to hurt people in the process to grow a church. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So focusing on God's direction, a healthy transition respects that pastors are temporary stewards, but God remains in control. 1 Corinthians 3:6-7 says, "I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything. Only God makes things grow." So now we're going to talk about an unhealthy pastoral transition in comparison to what I just said. So unhealthy transitions usually result from power struggles, personal agendas, or a leader's refusal to let go of something. Self-serving ambition is when a pastor acts out of a desire for fame, control, or financial gain rather than genuine care of the congregation. Philippians 2:3-4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others." Amen. Divisiveness and factions. An unhealthy transition often fractures the church as followers pledge allegiance to a specific man instead of Christ. I'm going to say that again. An unhealthy transition often fractures the church as followers pledge an allegiance to a specific man instead of Christ. 1 Corinthians 3 through 4 says, "For since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not worldly? Are you not acting like mere humans? For when one says, 'I follow Paul,' and another says, 'I follow Apollos,' are you not mere human beings? Clinging to power, shepherding for oneself, not God. Unhealthy leaders fail to protect the church and instead use it to serve their own egos, agendas, or comfort." Ezekiel 34 through 2, Ezekiel 34, verse 2. "This is what the sovereign Lord says, Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not the shepherds take care of the flock?" Okay, so now that it's my daughter. So now that we went over the basics of unhealthy versus healthy pastoral transition, I just want to end the video and follow that up by my personal experience of the initial sense of my version of the pastoral transition that I went through about 6 years ago at the longtime church that I was a part of, my home church. There was a lot of the things that happened that kind of I just named and went over with you that were red flags, but one of the basic ones was I just kind of immediately felt and like knew something was wrong because of how and the way that ministries got torn down. One that we really, really loved and cared about deeply, and I know for a fact that like nobody in our church would have done that. So it had to have been the new pastor, because none of us would have chosen to ever end that ministry. We loved it very much. It was called Celebrate Recovery. And the transition phase right before that was he had just completely like taken over and been fully passed the torch, like completely got passed to him. 2019, I believe. But it was from like 2018 to 2019 of that 1 year transition period where you had both the pastors like in the office and they were doing sermons. I mean, the pulpit, they were in the administration, they were still in the church, working together for like 1 year. So the old pastor and the new pastor, and that's normal, I guess, when, churches do that. They have like a transition period where there's both of them before you finally hand it off to the other one. And so what we are finding out though is that 5 years before that, previously, that our old pastor was actually mentoring the new one. So behind the scenes, before that, when our old pastor was still our old pastor for, I guess, 2013 to 2018. So for like during those 5 years, which was the year actually, as a matter of fact, that I got very involved, saved, born again, really learned how to do my walk with Christ really well during that period at that church. Really loved it. Supposedly those were the 5 years that our pastor, who we adored, was mentoring the new pastor. But one of the most peculiar things that happened during that 1 year, 2018 to 2019, when they were like both in the office in the transition period, when they were both there, during that time when he first announced on stage, hey, he chose a successor. He chose somebody he's passing the torch to. He's going to retire. Here's going to be your new head main pastor. We were a little like, okay, we understand people retire and pastors have to retire. We all really fell in love with the new pastor because we really loved our previous pastor. We really trusted him and we adored him so much. So it was confusing because, well, this is somebody that Steve told us is going to be great. This is who he chose, so we love him too. We love and trust him too. They would go on stage and do sermons together to kind of let the congregation know and ease some questions or concerns or doubts or whatever they may have about the new pastor, which is great. I think is really good. They allowed for a Q&A, a question and answer period on the stage somebody wrote notes, sent it in, and both of the pastors went on stage and they like answered the questions, and it was to help ease the hearts and minds of the congregation so that they would trust the new one coming in. It was great. They would talk about political things. They were like, I just want you to know this new pastor and we share the same theology. So it was really made known to us that, hey, it kind of was being made known to us that not a lot was going to change, you know? Because of the way that they did all of that, and the way that they did the transition completely was just to alleviate any concerns and let us know, hey, everything's going to be okay. Like, we share the same theology on politics, we share the same theology on a lot of things, and that made us think, okay, everything's going to be okay in the church. Yeah. No. I don't know if some of us that have come out and talked about how really grieved we are now. I think they call it a bait and switch. We think that as soon as the old pastor got out of the office and like was completely gone and like, you know, had completely retired, and he was out of there, completely now at that point, the whole complete church was now handed over to the new one, and it was all under the control of the new one. I'm pretty sure that at that very moment, he changed, started showing his true colors, started ending ministries. And one of the most heartbreaking things, and one of the reasons I wrote my book, Passing the Torch Without Burning Bridges, is the way that the new pastor just started coming in and making all these new changes and ending all these new ministries. He completely restructured everything and changed. Okay, so I was confused for a long time why he was doing it. I was a little upset, but I did not get the feeling like anybody cared. I didn't get the feeling like he cared. I wanted to talk about this. I was wondering why there wasn't a space and an open space that we were all felt like we could lovingly go and talk about this. There just wasn't. And then, so I was very confused for a very long time. I was very hurt. Like, what is happening to the church that I love? What is happening to our church? It's no longer recognizable. And for a long time, I made excuses for myself. I thought, oh, it's just me. You know, Tiffany, this happens. Pastors pass the torch. Like, get over it. Yeah. And so I left the church. I was actually really spiritually lost for a long time. I was like, how can this be the same church I loved and adored and learned how to do my walk with Christ with? You fast forward to about a month or two ago, and now there's like a lot of stories coming out about a lot of spiritual abuse that this new pastor has done. I will talk more about that later. That's the beginning of my series talking about all of this, and just wanted to say that. Healthy versus unhealthy pastoral transitions, and then talk about a little bit about the transition that I went through. All right, we'll get to the next video later. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Happy Friday. God bless you. Bye-bye.